Hello, hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to service and sort out a Cyma Chronometer Navystar caliber 444. Now this is a spectacular watch sent to me by a friend in America, and he's having issues that the stem does not fit properly, and when you close the watch it tends to it's very hard to wind and set. I have my suspicions what this can be, but we'll look at that a bit later. First of all, we'll take the case back off. I've already loosened this. Here you can see the movement. Spectacular chronometer grade caliber 446. I'm mistaken. The 444 is the sub-second version. The 446 is the sweep-second version. So basically the same movement, but with an overlaying driving wheel driving the sweep-second pinion. We have tension spring here that does not look correct. We'll have to look into that later on and see what we can do. Another nice feature is the solid gold case, which is substantial. So this is a very special watch, if you were to ask me. I have not seen a lot of these around, and I would say this would be highly collectible. So with the stem in, you can notice that it's almost like the case ring does not fall into place nicely. What I suspect is happening is that it has the wrong tension ring crystal in, and it should have a recessed tension ring crystal in it. So first of all, I'm going to take the movement out of the case. We'll do that by unscrewing the setting lever. The ace unscrewed, all right, fair enough. Pull the stem out, turn it around, lift the movement out of the case. I'm going to put this at the side. I'm going to pop out tension ring crystal, like so. So this crystal does not have a step, and I've already got a couple of new crystals ready, which are recessed. That means they haven't inner stepped on the tension ring. So I've gotten two, so we'll try with the small one first, see if that's the correct size. Seems to fit there very nicely, actually. Yep, that fell in very well. So let's put the movement back into the case and see if we have sorted out our issues with the movement not sitting right in the case. The movement already feels like it's falling into the case much nicer now. Stem goes in straight, like so. Okay, we might have another issue with the stem that might have disengaged now, but I'll have a look at this later. We'll see. There we go. Yep, that's fine. That re-engaged. Now there's no problem at all winding this. That's fine. I can set it nicely. If I put the case back on. Case back winds on beautifully straight, no issues. Look at that, that works. Now the movement's a bit loose in there. I suspect this watch should have, which I've seen on the other Navystars, a little tension spring leaning up against the case back. You can see it's kind of recessed for it. I do have a collection of case back springs, so I'll modify and make this work. For now, at least we've solved the first problem, and that was that it needed the stepped crystal and not a traditional tension ring crystal like this one. It needs the one which has the stepped groove in the crystal. Actually, I'll show you the other one for comparison. So it's a bit got to catch in the light. You can see there's a groove here, so this falls further in. That allows the dial to fall down to the correct position, where this one is flat, where the dial would rest onto this. So what happens is that your movement isn't falling into your case as much as it should, and it will be cause all sorts of problems. And the first most notable thing you'll notice is that the stem won't go in where it should normally go in. Excellent. All right, well, I'll take this out of the case again and we'll get started with the service, because I'm pretty sure it will need a service. Okay, now I'm removing the case ring. So I'm unscrewing the case screws, which you can see here, case ring screws, and this comes off as such. I'm going to set the hands, so I'll put the stem back in for now. I should have done that when I took it out of the case, but I forgot. Hands are loose anyway. There you go. Pretty close to the dial. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to remove the hands with the dial. I'm loosening the dial screws. What I will now do is gently lift the dial off, like so. Here the second hand, and the minute hand came off nicely. See, somebody's been forcing this earlier, so there's a little dent on the dial. But, yeah, that's a shame. That's the effect of putting the wrong tension ring crystal in and then forcing the case back on. But besides that, the dial is very nice condition, and luckily it's underneath the bezel anyway, so you won't really see it. But yeah, this is what happens when you force the movement into the case with the wrong crystal. Alright, now you can see our hand, which is too close for comfort, is underneath here, and what I'm going to do is press it in the middle, like so. That takes it out, no damage to the dial, and the hands come off nicely. So when working on a watch, it's always very nice to put your dial in a safe place so that you don't accidentally scratch it or put something on top of it, and the same goes for the hands. Like for real, is that really necessary? So somebody's putting off a broken off screw. As there's not thread in there, so they've glued it in place. I guess it's kind of saved the watch. It's still working, but I would not call that a nice repair. So I don't really want to force this with the glue, so I might dip that in acetone and dissolve the glue, and then try to get the screw out when I'm doing that at the same time. So what I've done is I have this actually moves back and forth, which is a blessing, because that means I can get out the sweep second pinion. And I have done, I guess I haven't, yeah, I have, oh, another problem we have, which I just noticed, is that wheel here is a little bent. So when I take this out, I might have a look at it in the staking set and see if I can straighten it up, the overlying driving wheel. Pushed out. So plenty of scars from people removing that in the past. Okay, I'm going to put this on fast forward. I'm going to put it on time lapse here, and we'll get back to it when we're putting it together again. Okay, that was a very fast tear down, I would say. I'm going to tighten the dial screws so they don't fall out during cleaning. I prefer keeping them in the movement because they have a habit of disappearing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the balance back into place for cleaning, and we're going to bung it in the cleaning machine. Before we bung it in the cleaning machine, we're going to have a quick look and see if we can dissolve that glued in screw for the tension spring of the sweep second pinion, and then we'll bung it in the cleaning machine when that's out. Otherwise I'll get it out somehow, but the gentler the better in my book. Anyway, this is ready to go into the cleaning basket. Okay, well, I'm going to dip this in here, leave it for a few seconds, and let the glue get dissolved, and we're going to try and get that out. If that's not going to work, I'm going to try and unscrew it, because I think the thread has embedded itself in the hole, which shouldn't have thread. And if that doesn't work, we're going to try and push it out in the stake, and if that seems too violent, we'll have to dissolve the bit of screw that is left. So we'll go in that order, but the gentler the better. If you can do this without causing any damage, I'll be very happy. I doubt we will, but we'll try and be as careful as possible. I'm quite happy with the straightness of this now. It's difficult to catch on the camera, but it was much more wonky before. It can have a little bit of, it's only so good I'm going to get this, but that's definitely better than what it was before. Okay, unfortunately, this screw is not going anywhere. I tried punching it a bit, but I didn't want to overdo it. I'm just going to break things if I keep doing this. As I suspect, the thread has really, somebody cut the thread into this with the screw, so it's really jammed in there. Best way of going forward is to dissolve the screw in a bath of alum. That should do the job, and when I'm doing that, it's quite important to remove any other metal parts, because you don't want to dissolve them as well. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to cover this whole piece in Rodico, and by doing that I prevent any discoloring that might also happen while this is being treated, as I have had that before, where the alum has discolored the plating, and I really don't want that, so I'm going to cover it, the whole plate, with Rodico, so I don't want to have any unnecessary plating loss or discoloration. Very cool click spring, which I've seen before on these Cymas. It's screwed in place, very nice. But yeah, that's a bummer. That's going to set back the project a couple of days. The client doesn't mind. To be honest, I don't mind. I was just hoping to get it back together today, but that will be for another day. Okay, well, I've covered the bridge in Rodico, and you can see I've exposed the two sides where the screw is, and put it in this little bath with alum. I've also got another dial screw on a turner which I'm dissolving, so there it goes. I'll go back in a couple of days and see what it looks like. Welcome back to Cyma calibre 446 chronometer movement service. We're now going to put the movement back together. As you might remember, in the end of the first movie, part 1 of the series, we had the incorrect tension spring for the sweep second pinion had been forced in place with a screw, which is incorrect. Here we have a push fit adjustable spring that comes in here. So now I have dissolved that, and I'm going to press in the new the new spring. So I've secured my, barrel bridge, and we're going to pop that spring in place. Being a push bit, I hope I only need to push it into place. Oh, it's fallen down. And we can continue from there. So I pushed this in under the microscope because I didn't want to break anything. And what we now have is an adjustable spring for the sweep second pinion. Alright, the second thing I'm going to do is put the escape wheel and pallet and capsules into Epilon. Now the old mainspring seems to be in very good order, so we're going to reuse that for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some mainspring grease on that, so it's being cleaned together with the movement. And now I'm going to add some mainspring grease. I'll put a little dab on each side of the mainspring, and I run it through some water baking paper. What that does is distribute the grease evenly on the mainspring. Now I'm going to fit it into the barrel, and as always I align the hook in the barrel, or the notch in the barrel with a hook on the mainspring. And I curve the mainspring gently into the barrel. So I coil the mainspring just into place. The trick here is to not bend the mainspring too much while you're coiling it back into the barrel, because then you risk damaging your mainspring. Oh, getting stuck in the camera stand here because the mainspring is quite long. And gently just put it back into the barrel. I'm going to do this out of the camera's view right now because I was hitting the, here we go, I was hitting the camera stand. So to top this off, I'm going to put a drop of oil, a bit of a heavier oil, red oil on the side of where the barrel arbor sits in the barrel. Make sure that your barrel arbor sits in correctly. And then I'm going to put a drop along the wall of the barrel arbor where it slides against the barrel lid. Now I'm going to stick it together using the watch paper, like so. And I might as well use a bit of Rodico, clean it up a bit. Make sure there's no marks from the gloves, even though they're minimum. Sometimes, yeah, just want it nice and clean, like so. Now that's ready to go into the movement. I have removed the jewels from the epilogue, and we have a bit of a situation here. It's, the upper escape wheel chaton is here, and the jewel for it is here. The lower actually has the jewels in, I guess, a chaton that goes into the chaton, and that's different from the upper one. And then we have a fin cap jewel that goes on the bottom and a thick cap jewel that goes on the top. So we have all 4 different jewels, cap jewels in this movement, which is pretty ridiculous, as you're much better off just standardizing and having a single size, but this is the way they decided to do it. So I'm going to now put these cap jewels into the movement, and if you see some of my other videos, you'll see me doing this under the microscope. But to keep this nice and short, I'm going to cut to them being put into place. What you can see here is that I have put the shock jewel into its place, and I've placed the cap jewel on top. On the surface of the cap jewel, I've put a little droplet of oil in the middle, and now being a Cyma flex, I just have to lift a retaining spring on top, like so. And that is the top shock protection jewel and cap jewel put in place. Now I'm going to do the other side, which requires me to fit. This time you actually screw the jewels into place with a little retaining spring, which is this one. I'll get back to that in a sec. There we go, I've oiled the shock jewels and put the cap jewel in place, and I'm now going to put the retaining spring into place, which goes in as such. I might fiddle a bit. I usually do this under the microscope. There we go, that's in position. Now I'm going to screw it in place. With the lower shock jewel in place, we should be able to see if the balance is moving freely. In this case, it's not. Well, a quick inspection under a microscope showed that I had not tightened the balance cock correctly, so I was riding up a little bit here and squashing pressing onto the balance axle, and that will of course make sure it doesn't move freely. Now I can see the balance is moving freely, and I'm happy to take the balance cock off and continue with putting the movement back together. So before I put the movement together, I might as well put the cap jewel in for the escape wheel. If I don't do this, I'll have great difficulty in putting the gear train in, for obvious reasons. There we go, that's the lower cap jewel in place and ready for the escape wheel. Now I'm going to start putting the gear train back together, and unlike the other video, I'm not going to fast track this. We'll start by putting the setting lever screw in, because we cannot fit this afterwards. I like putting this rough oil in the barrel, side of the barrel, lower barrel over wall. Didn't get that quite right, so I'm just going to clean up any excess oil. Do that again. So, and in the center wheel. On earlier inspection, everything looks to be fairly good condition, so no need for any new bushings. Both the center wheel and barrels, I like to oil from the inside rather than adding oil on the top later on. When it comes to the jewels, I always add the oil on the top. Right. Let's see, I think I need to put the gear train in this first. So let's put the gear train in. To do that, we need to put the top cap jewel in. Let's do that. Gear train into the movement. So it's a good idea to double check under the microscope that all the pivots are in place before you put any screws into the bridge and tighten it up. There's nothing, well, there is more annoying things, but in this trade, breaking a pivot is quite annoying, and you try to avoid it. Nice. Here you can see I would not have been able to get this wheel in if I had fitted the barrel bridge first. So sometimes we do it in the right order. As you will see in my other videos, it's a mistake I unfortunately do make sometimes, adding on to how long it takes to fix something. I do like these protector plates. the crown wheels, as they really increase the hardness on top where the crown wheel touches. Otherwise you would have the crown wheel rubbing up against brass. Not always, but you know, most cases it would be going on top of brass. If you just have one of these metal washers, it really adds to the strength of the plate. Very nicely decorated crown wheel on this one. I've had other ones not so nicely decorated, but this is a nice example. So on Cyma you get this little notch on the top. Shows you it's a left-handed thread. Like so. Now what I need to do, as I took it out earlier, is fit the ratchet and the ratchet spring. On Cyma they are quite nicely made. Ratchet spring is screwed in place. So you have a little slot and you have the ratchet spring screwed into it. I'm going to have a quick look under the microscope on this because it's otherwise a bit fiddly. Here you can see how that spring is held in place by a tiny screw. Unlike the other Cyma we did, there's no end shake in this barrel arbor at all. It's very nice. Hasn't had the same amount of wear and there's no need to do anything with it. Now we're going to fit this lovely ratchet wheel, which has the Taiwanese watch Co engraved into it, which we all know is the same company as Cyma. It was anyway. And we have a free moving gear train, that's what I like to see. Very nice. And I'm going to oil the movement, and what I'm going to do is put a bit of oil in here and the same on the other side, and we'll put the setting mechanism in place. So I will start by putting the sliding pinion in place. The sliding pinion gets a drop of grease on all its components that touches something. That's where the yoke engages, and now we'll put winding pinion in place, like a couple of drops of grease here. So that goes into place. Let's put a drop of grease sliding on the sliding surfaces of the stem, which are here, 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 and here. Maybe on the tip, and in here. Make sure this engages properly, like so. Now we can put the setting lever in place. I'm going to loosen it, turn it around, and screw the setting lever, like so. Now we can fit the yoke, very nicely machined yoke. yoke spring, which is one of my favorites on this movement, which is machined. Looks very nice. Make sure we put it in the, is it this way around? No. Right way around. That could be helpful, of course. Give me a second, I'm going to look at a picture. Here we go, like so. Always helps to have a look at a picture so you know what direction to put things back into place. Looks lovely there. As this slides up and down, I'm going to give it a little bit of sliding grease on the top there. There's the cannon pinion, like so. Minute wheel, intermediate time setting wheel. And now we can fit the setting lever spring. Again, a lovely piece. Screw seems a bit off. I have to look under the microscope. There we go, in place. Setting the screw. Screw was fine, it was just because of the tension, it wasn't going in correctly, so I loosened took the setting lever spring off here, and then it came in nicely, and I re-engaged it. So we now have a winding watch and a setting watch. Now it's time to put the pallet fork back into place and oil it up. Trust me, I've broken my fair share of pallet fork pivots, so I would rather not do that. So I will do this again, have a look under the microscope to make sure I'm not screwing this in and the pivot has fallen out. Yep, that looks pretty good. Now for the screws. Lovely. I'm ready to wind the movement up and oil the pallet jewels, then see if she'll run. Okay, 1, So I'm oiling the palette. As you can see, I've got a drop of oil which I'm spreading out over the escape wheel. Run. There we go, that's looking good. Now we can see what the movement does on the time graph. I'm going to fit a sweep second pinion and the driving wheel after I have looked at the time graph now, and just to make sure that it's running well, and then I'll fit the wheels again and then look at the time graph again. So the watch seems to have a good amplitude and is I've not adjusted it yet, so it's canning a little bit, but the beat error is a little high, so I'm going to adjust that. So the beat error adjustment requires me to turn the collet in the opposite direction of the beat error and able to correct it. And our goal is to get the impulse pin as close to the center of the pallet fork as possible. Okay, after about 15 attempts of getting the beat error right, 0.2, I'm happy with that. It's now running dial down position, plus 4 seconds a day to 77 amplitude, which is good. I'm going to turn it around for dial up position. So from plus 4 to 5 seconds a day to plus 2 seconds, so there's 3 seconds variation from dial down to dial up, or 2 seconds variation from dial up to dial now. Now going to try crown up position, so the amplitude is going to drop. Settling in. -4, -11 seconds. See where that stabilizes. -13. Yeah, okay, let's do crown down position. -12 seconds. So it's not quite chronometer specs anymore, but I have to say for a 70-plus-year-old watch, it's not bad. This one's probably, let's say 65 years old at the time of filming. So -9 seconds dial down, so that's considerable variation from dial down, but -8 seconds actually stabilizing, so there's about the loss of 10 seconds a day crown down compared to dial up. 6 seconds. It's actually pretty darn good. I would think this watch might keep within 10 seconds a day, so a little bit out of COSC standards, but for such an old watch which has had a life, I think it's pretty good. Okay, for the final touches here, let's fit the sweep second driving wheel, which is push fit. So now we can fit the sweep second pinion. That's going to get a tiny drop of oil. Not a lot, as that will create unnecessary friction. It's very light. And we'll secure that with a tension spring. So there you have it, the movement's put together. Now it's time to put the hands on, well, dial and hands, and case it. Alright, let's fit the dial. So we also want to get the hour wheel and our wheel washer on before we put the dial back in place. Need to make sure the hour hand misses the Cyma logo, which it does. Then we need to set the time to as close as 12 as possible, which it is. Okay, this hand is a little low down, so we'll see if we can reshape that a little. Actually, seems like this hand's a little loose. So for that we need to tighten it. That we need the staking set. So in order to tighten the hour hand, I'm going to widen, or flatten it a little bit so that the hole shrinks. doesn't take much. So while we're at it, we're just going to press the sweep second hand on like so. So we're supporting the pinion on the underside. So I have set the hands on this watch to clearings are very, very tight. But nothing's touching. Dials don't touch the hands don't touch the dial, and the hands don't touch each other, so that's good. Next step is to get the stem out. So I loosen the setting lever. Fit the case ring. Like so. Make sure it lines up with where you put the stem in. Get the case ring screws on. Make sure there's no more dirt on the dial. It's looking pretty good. Movement into the case. Tight. So I'm just going to test fit the case. Crown is protruding a bit, so I'm going to shorten that stem a little bit. So we have to get the crown out again. Let's have a look. Looks like that crown is already on the stem extension. Okay. Yeah, I could shorten that a tiny bit, but not much. Let's see how it looks. Oh, I think that looks poop. We need to find a stem. Do this right. I'll have a quick review of the movement. I think it's this one's fairly finished. It's not as high grade as the no, not as high grade as the 856 we did earlier, which is also a video on YouTube. A full service video on that one. Quite a long video. Check it out if you want to. Yeah, very high finish on the crown wheel, ratchet wheel, gear train in general. It's very well executed and made. Cap jewels, both escape upper and lower has cap jewels. Cyma Flex shock protection, always nice to see. Dial side maybe a little bit more rudimentary than what I'd expect on a movement like this, but overall still very nicely finished, and yeah, I wouldn't complain about it. I will show you another movement before we end this video, and you can see what you think of that. So to jump quickly to the case, this is actually the one I got the stem for this watch. I've ordered a new one for this, but instead of waiting, we finished it off. It was in good condition, so went nicely onto this watch. But yeah, here's identical example, just in stainless steel, and actually, as you can see, the finish on this is actually higher than on this. Here you have a beautiful beveled edge on the outside of the movement plates. Very fine surface finish. This has not been serviced, so it's still it's not as shiny and nice as it could be, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the dial side on this is, because if the dial side on this is highly finished, I would definitely rate this higher than what I've done so far. So yeah, a bit of variation on the finishing on the Cyma caliber 444 series, 446, which is the sweep second. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see when I open this up. Okay, one last thing to overcome is the movement is a bit loose in the case, and that is because this one has been missing the tension spring, which goes in the case back. I've modified a generic one to go on the outer rim here. I had to split it so I could expand it, but that's fine. It's not going to do any difference. It's going to do its job. That's good. In comparison, I have a stainless steel one here with the original spring in. As you can see, it has about the same thickness and does the same job. So let's pop it on. So, movement is now secure in the case. It's not moving around anymore, which is nice. It means you can wind it without it bouncing around. Excellent. So there you have it, the Cyma Navystar Chronometer, caliber 446, newly serviced, repaired, and ready to be enjoyed again.